Hello, Arbitraries. I'm Garrett Harriman, creator and host of the Arbitrarium podcast. This episode was recorded August 27th, 2001. I say that because this is going to be a bit different of an episode than normal. We're going to try and play it a bit straighter, as it deals with a subject that affects me personally, the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. For those of you that don't know, I fought in Operation Enduring Freedom 9 from July 2008 to June 2009 with 2nd Battalion, 2nd Infantry Regiment, 3rd Combat Team, 3rd Brigade Combat Team, 1st Infantry Division. Last week has been an emotional roller coaster for me, as I'm sure it has been for many other veterans of the Afghan War. To see atrocities committed and to watch friends die in horrific ways in front of you is bad enough. To see that it was all for naught is another thing entirely. To help discuss this topic with me today is my good friend and co-host, David Perry.
Hello, Arbitrators. All right, well, how would you like to begin this one?
First, I'd like to talk about a little bit of the history of Afghanistan. We're going to go through it pretty fast because this is 4,000 years of history we're trying to condense into maybe 20 minutes. As I said, 4,000 years ago is over 4,000 years ago is about how long Afghanistan, the area we now call Afghanistan, has been occupied and settled. Mm-hmm. There were cities in Afghanistan before there were cities in Europe, really. The city of Kabul, or Kabul, however you want to call it, has been there at least 3,500 years. We don't exactly know much about the people that built the city because, well...
it's kind of hard to excavate and do those types of things in that area right now, I would imagine.
And has for decades.
Yeah.
Especially given how most archaeological expeditions are more Eurocentric. Mm-hmm. Euro-America-centric. So it's only in the past few decades that there's been a rush to try and figure out, okay, what happened in these other places? Mm-hmm. I think most people think of Afghanistan and they think of it as it is today, and has been for, 30 years now? 30, 40 years now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people who aren't really all that familiar with Afghanistan at all, they just kind of assume that it's been a third world country basically its entire existence.
No, and that is patently not false. Afghanistan, or the
patently not true.
Yes, patently not true. As I said, this has been affecting me. Afghanistan has been an area that has given rise to conquerors and civilizations that were sometimes fell apart, sometimes were conquered in turn. It's just like any other area in the world in that regard. You have great powers rise, great powers fall, different religions. At one point, during I have notes here for once. Bear with me. After Alexander the Great conquered Afghanistan and went into India and did some of the stuff that he did that got him still worshipped today as a form of God, he died, and his one of his generals went on to found the Seleucid Empire, and
the Seleucid Empire, yeah.
Yeah, Seleucid.
Okay.
The area that is the northern part of Afghanistan that is referred to geologically as, or geographically, God, I'm all kinds of screwed up, as Bactria, had this kind of interesting Greco-Persian, Indian, Central Asian culture that it all just kind of came together and blended and created the Bactrian kingdoms.
Mm-hmm. Like a melting pot of the Middle East.
Not just the Middle East, but the world. I mean, the Khyber Pass that goes through the Hindu Kush Mountains, if you were going from the west to the east, you went through there. So it's always been an area of trade. It's been a crossroads. So armies and empires have gone through there all over the place. Sometimes they conquered it and held on to it. Sometimes they conquered it and it fell to rebellion. Sometimes people went in and exterminated everything. But the Afghans kept coming back.
Mm-hmm. Well, it seems like maybe one of the reasons that it has that, I guess, moniker of the place where...
the Graveyard of Empires.
The Graveyard of Empires may just be because of volume.
Yeah. That's a
inevitably, when that many of them go through there, you're going to see a lot of ones that fall.
But there have been plenty of empires that have successfully conquered Afghanistan and then fallen to other things. Now, that being said, the area has always had this independent streak in it because, I mean, you get an ancient culture of that many blendings, nothing's really going to quite stick, and they're going to keep following the ways that have worked for them. So the Graveyard of Empires moniker is not really apt in the way it's often spoken of. It's more, empires have a hard time holding on to it, but it can be conquered. Mm-hmm. I mean, Genghis Khan did it with the Khorasan Empire. If everyone's heard that. The Khorasan Empire spanned areas in Afghanistan and Persia, and Genghis Khan sent some trade envoys loaded with all sorts of exotic things from the Far East. And the Khorasan Emperor said, okay, thanks, great, we'll just take that. And killed all but one of the Mongols and cut off his hair, which was a big no-no. Went back to the Khan and said, okay, there must have been some sort of misunderstanding here. So he sent another trade envoy. And the same thing happened.
Well, I just want to clarify that, just to make sure. Genghis Khan said, oh, there must have been some kind of misunderstanding, and then went back peacefully.
Same plan.
Genghis Khan, just to make sure.
Just to be sure that this was a misunderstanding, and or someone wasn't trying to screw him over. So he sent another trade envoy, and the same thing happened. And Genghis Khan
fooled me once.
Genghis Khan said something along the lines of, "I offered peace, now you shall have war." And well, the rest, as they say, is mountains of skulls. There was allegedly a wall of skulls built around the capital of the Khorasan Empire that reached 10 feet high.
That's pretty fucking metal.
Yeah. Genghis Khan did not fuck around.
Or apparently if he did, he only fucked around once.
In that way, I mean...
Yeah.
I mean, he's like, what, a direct ancestor to like 1/3 of the planet at this point?
Mm-hmm. There's a little Khan in all of us.
Actually, we're more like Charlemagne, but we're white as hell if you can't tell.
Yeah. If they're watching this on YouTube, they can tell. Although you've got a nice tan in the picture that we've got up on YouTube.
Oh, well. Yeah. Good. The producer is expressing his gratitude for being included at the table for once. And I kind of ran out of note space before there, but we're gonna jump from the 13th century up to the 19th century with the British playing with something Rudyard Kipling called The Great Game, where basically the Russians and the British were trying to keep each other from getting Afghanistan because it was such a great trade route to go through. And the British had their asses handed to them by being stupid, for one. If you go into a hostile area, and this is going to come up later, and you've been fighting these people, and they've been fighting pretty ferociously, and they haven't honored any truce before, and you say, okay, we're going to evacuate, and we don't want to fight. Well, we want safe passage.
Boy, that sounds real fucking familiar right now.
And they're saying, okay, yeah, we'll grant you safe passage if you give us all your guns. And the moron went for it. He was a British governor who was like, yeah, we'll give him all our cannons. We're allowed to keep 50 muskets. Yeah, that's enough.
This man's never seen a Scorsese film.
No, they weren't out at the time.
Yeah.
If only Scorsese would have been born 130 years earlier. Well, as you can imagine, the British came out with their basically honor guard at this point, and some thousands of civilians and their families, and then were fell upon by Afghans armed with Khyber knives. Many were dismembered.
That's just a big old butcher shop.
Yeah, it's a big old butcher shop. So we'll get into that later as to why that didn't work, but I don't think I need to spell that out or
It's
relate it to modern day.
Relatively clear. Yeah.
So...
Oh, shit.
You started to get...
Hold on one second. Sorry, folks. I neglected to silence my phone.
Damn it, Dave.
My bad. Working on it, and we're good.
All right. If you can... There it is.
Yep,
yeah.
There we go.
So you started to get British and Russian influences into these areas as well. The British from the Raj that was moving up, and the Russians trying to head south to get to the Indian Ocean, which is a recurring theme in Russian history. 4 reasons we'll get into. And for a while, I mean, it's never really been the most peaceful of places, but a good way to think about it is like the Appalachian Mountains. You've got a lot of rural folk who are kind of set in their ways, still kind of identifying by localities, and this word's going to be misinterpreted all over the place, tribes.
Mm-hmm.
That if you go into an area to another tribe and you're not from that tribe and they know you're from a tribe they don't like, you're probably not getting out of there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're just kind of neutral, they're like, what are you doing here? They might try and rob you. They might leave you alone.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Best bet is just to not acknowledge what tribe you're from.
Right. As refugees are finding out right now.
Pulling Abraham.
Move forward. The Ottoman Empire falls. Afghanistan was never really a part of the Ottoman Empire, but it fell into that Muslim sphere of influence. Well, the British move in after post-World War I. And Afghanistan actually starts to develop, and from an urban standpoint. The rural areas continued to be the rural areas of Afghanistan. Muslim fundamentalists, that kind of thing. Very, very conservative Muslim.
Country folk.
Yeah. They're not stupid. Don't ever think for a moment they're stupid. Ignorant about some things, and I'll get into some stories about that. But for the most part, they just want to be left alone until you piss them off. Then they want your head.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the urban areas of Afghanistan, if you look at pictures of Kabul from 1960, it's weird, because you see an Arab influence there, but you think, this must be Iraq. This must be like Tehran, Damascus, a developed urban center with Western influences. But no, this is Kabul, Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. Women in colleges not being forced to wear the burqa or the hijab. If they wore it, it was of their own free will. It was a liberalized society. Now, remember when I said that Russians try to get to the Indian Ocean thing?
Yeah.
That's just because of where they are geographically. Dave, how big is the Russian coastline?
It's the second largest coastline in the world, Garrett.
So, you'd say on a scale of 1 to big, where would that be?
I mean, if biggest is 10, 9.9.
9.7, get it right.
Okay. I'm assuming it's second and only to Antarctica.
No, Canada.
Really? So we're not counting Antarctica then?
Yeah, Antarctica is not a country.
I guess.
Antarctica belongs to everybody.
All right, fair enough.
By treaty, anyway.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. We're going to have to do an episode on Antarctica, I guess.
Canada, huh?
Yeah, Canada has the longest coastline. I mean, think about all those little fucking islands they got.
True.
You get more coastline per coastline that way. Well, how much of that coastline that Russia has is actually usable for deep water ports?
Well,
during the Cold War.
Oh, well, I mean, a lot of it's frozen wasteland, not all of it. Garrett's giving me an opportunity to sound smarter than I am because we discussed this earlier, and I know a few things now. Just want to put that out there. As you mentioned during that conversation,
strap in. Here comes an education.
They have Kamchatka, but it's Japan's right off the coast of Kamchatka, which is an ally of the U.S.
Excuse me, Vladivostok.
Vladivostok. Okay.
Yes, which is in Kamchatka.
Basically, no useful coastline.
Right. You got their Pacific port blocked off by U.S. ally Japan. Mm-hmm. You've got the Baltic blocked off by pretty much all of NATO, and you've got the Black Sea, which you've got to go through the Bosporus, which is
Turkey,
NATO ally. If you get through that, you got to go through the Mediterranean. Good luck. Then you got to get through Gibraltar, owned by Great Britain, or the Suez Canal, owned by, at one point, Great Britain, or the Egyptians, which were a little bit closer to Russia than other people. I mean, they have a lot of Russian equipment. Had a lot of Russian equipment.
Mm-hmm.
So, for having such a large coastline, Russia is effectively landlocked. So what they had to do was, all right, we're going to try and get to the Indian Ocean. This is 1960. Well, to get to the Indian Ocean, you've got Iran, which is your best bet, but they're going through their own little troubles, and they're at the time where you had the Shah and then that whole revolution thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you had Afghanistan to get through first. Afghanistan, the cities were more liberalized, more religiously tolerant is maybe a way to put it. And you're Russia. You want to get an ally in Afghanistan, but you can't outright invade. So you got to do the KGB thing of destabilization.
You send in the commies.
You create the commies.
Well, yeah, you create the commies.
By sending in commies.
Yes.
But it's like a virus. You send in one commie, and next thing you know, there's like 10,000 of them just bursting out of your cells.
And fun fact, communists reproduce by budding.
I've also heard that communists have an organ behind their eyelids that turns salt water into fresh water.
I've heard that as well. It must be true.
Yeah, that came out of a book, right?
Yeah. Yep. I think, I don't know who's a reliable author. Elie Wiesel, he wrote that.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Well, Elie Wiesel, whatever.
Well, those of you who know about communism know that it is a staunchly atheist ideology.
Also a red herring. Somebody had to do it. It's the first time it's ever been mentioned on the Arbitrarium, and I'm going to say you're welcome, Phil.
If Phil ever even listens to this damn thing. Well, you've got, all right, the communists, through help from the KGB, end up taking over Afghanistan. Nominally. But not the rural areas, which are becoming more and more Islamically fundamentalist.
Mm-hmm.
So they start up a guerrilla warfare campaign to try and fight the communists, which is what you do against communists. Communists do it against other people, too.
Sometimes they do it against themselves.
Sometimes they do it against themselves. And, well, this is the Cold War, so we're looking at Soviet troops getting ambushed and shot at, and we're watching reprisals against civilian populations and anyone who might be harboring these guerrillas, which would come to be called the Mujahideen. So we're looking at like, all right, we want to give trouble to the Russians like they gave to us in Vietnam. So let's start arming these Mujahideen guys. And we start sending money and weapons. Saudi Arabia matches it. They decide we're gonna match, because these are Islamic fighters. We're gonna help out Islamic fighters. We don't care who they are. We just care that they're against the Soviets.
Right.
And at one point, over $1 billion a year is being sent to Mujahideen fighters, arming them with anything and everything we can get their hands on reasonably, and some things that, are straight from us. Mm-hmm. Stinger missile launchers. No one made those, except us. And they were using them to shoot down Mi-24 Hinds left and right. That's an attack helicopter, for those of you who aren't up on military vehicle nomenclature.
Or those of you who have not played Metal Gear Solid.
I mean,
you run into Hinds a lot in that game.
I mean, they're great helicopters. But,
you have to take one down with a Nikita missile. I
mean, I'd rather have a Stinger that's fire and forget.
Maybe it was Stinger. You have both. Maybe it was Stinger.
The Stinger you lock onto and it goes...
Yeah, it was. That's right. It was Stingers.
Yeah.
Sorry. Nikita's what I used to kill Sniper Wolf. Continue.
Yeah, those are TV guided.
Yes.
So the Russians look at what's going on in Afghanistan, and after 10 years of trying to put down this rebellion, they say, fuck it, and leave. Well, we've just spent a decade sending tons of guns and money to Islamic fundamentalists, and you still have other people who were like, can we just have the country we had back?
Yeah, that's one thing that's easy to overlook, is that there's still many Afghans alive right now that remember when none of this was a thing.
Yeah.
Or at least not anywhere near to the degree that it is now.
I mean, there's a lot fewer of them now.
Well, yeah.
But there are Afghans alive who remember, Afghanistan.
The Republic.
Who remember the Republic. So this breaks into civil war between the we want Sharia, and oh, by the way, saying Sharia law is kind of dumb, because Sharia means Islamic law. So you're saying Islamic law.
Makes it sound kind of cute.
I guess. So you got we want Sharia, and other people like let's not. And the let's not people get pushed back to the north, get pushed to the northern part of Afghanistan. They become the Northern Alliance. The Mujahideen who stay and fight, and then influenced by Pakistan, or Pakistanis who go over to, help become the Taliban.
Yeah, this is where the... You know what? Continue.
No, go on.
I think I was mistaken. I'm thinking, is this at about the time that the Taliban and the Al-Qaeda started kind of...
Yeah,
meshing?
I mean, they kind of started in the same thing, and then they branched off, but became friends. The Taliban is more the government side of things.
Right.
The Al-Qaeda are the... Al-Qaeda was the religious fundamentalists to the religious fundamentalists.
Oh, okay.
So, when Taliban ends up taking over, I believe in 1994, is when it's decided, all right, Afghanistan belongs to the Taliban.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll leave it to you guys to look up how life under the Taliban really operated. Because what they're telling us now, what they're going to do, that's not what's going to happen. We're already seeing it.
Yeah, we've already seen the renege on that.
What was we're going to respect women's rights from now on in Afghanistan.
Okay.
Ignore the woman being beaten for not wearing the burqa. Mm-hmm. With the butts of assault rifles. Yeah, because that's how you uphold women's rights, by beating women. I'll get into my distaste for the Taliban. All right. Well, I said Al-Qaeda was a kind of I don't want to say splinter group, because they weren't a splinter group. They were they were coevolution.
Yeah.
That's not a word. They existed together.
Right.
One of the guys who helped make Al-Qaeda is someone everyone knows the name of, thanks to 9/11, Osama bin Laden. So how did 9/11 happen? Well, here's my own personal take on what I've seen. Cohabitant. Thank you.
Yes, cohabitant.
That's a good word. Cohabitant. Excuse me. 1990. 1991. That area. First Gulf War. Operation Desert Shield. Operation Desert Storm. What led up to that was Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait for the oil, which we kind of put him up to. Well, we didn't tell him not to do that. We said, whatever happens as long as the oil flows.
I believe Rush had a song about that.
Maybe. Well, Saddam invades Kuwait. The Saudis shit themselves. Because Saddam had the third largest army on the planet at the time.
That I did not know.
Yeah. People were screaming that, America's going to go into Desert Storm and get slaughtered because they have just so many more people. Well, we saw what happened. That's not what happened. It was the other way around. Saudi Arabia shit themselves, and Osama bin Laden, who was a Saudi, approaches the Saudis and says, "Hey, I've got like 35,000 Mujahideen fighters who we can help defend the Saudi border from Saddam." And the United States says, "Well, we've got the entire 3rd Armored Division plus an aircraft carrier and air-to-ground assets."
Wait a minute, hold on, back up, because I think I heard you say that Saddam sent these people over there to defend...
No, Osama bin Laden...
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, yeah. Okay.
Offered...
Bin Laden, not... Okay, that
yeah,
makes...
offered
sorry.
to defend
Saudi
Arabia with his Mujahideen.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Well, becoming Al-Qaeda. Becoming Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
The U.S. said, well, we'll send the entire 3rd Armored Division with Naval Task Force and air-to-ground assets, and you name it, we got it. And the Saudis took the Americans up on their offer rather than Osama bin Laden's. This started the personal vendetta he had against America, which was then further justified by the Islamic fundamentalism and America fucking around in the Middle East. It's like bombing aspirin factories. I'm looking at you, Clinton.
Which one?
The one that became president.
So Hillary. That joke's never going to go old to me.
I was about to say the one who chased skirts. Well, I don't know. Hillary didn't do that. What did this deer that laid down on the side of the road know about Hillary Clinton? Well, people forget there was a attack on the World Trade Center before 9/11, September 11th, 2001, which was, I believe, in 1994. I could be wrong. I could look that up right now. I'm not gonna. It was in the early 90s. There was a bomb set off in the parking garage underneath the place, which, I mean, you'd think that might work, but no, it didn't. Those powers didn't come down until...
Gave him an indoor swimming pool. And a lot of people died.
A lot of people did die. But nowhere near what happened 7 years later.
Right.
So that was his first attempt. His second attempt was far more successful. And,
arguably.
I don't think we need to rehash the events of 9/11.
No, I'm pretty sure we're all still quite familiar with the events of 9/11.
If you're 18, get online. You'll find it.
Yeah, promise.
If you're younger than 18, why are you listening to this? Shut up.
Long story short, a couple of planes hit the towers and they collapsed. And about 3,000 people died.
Yeah. And we'll get into more on the 9/11 stuff later in the final segment. Well, America was understandably pissed off. So, and the American people demanded any kind of action just to at least look like we're doing something. They demanded it. They were slavering for it.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah.
People like to forget that part.
And you get two of the most defining decisions of the United States in the 21st century right off the bat. The first one is the USA Patriot Act, which was a rush-through piece of legislation. You can't write something that big in a month and get it signed off and expect it to be just great.
Or to know what the hell's in it.
It was
in its entirety.
No one could read it that fast.
How many pages was the Patriot Act?
Thousands.
I knew it was thousands, I just didn't know if we knew.
It was a lot.
Yeah.
So, we're going to strengthen America by providing adequate tools to interdict and obstruct terrorism.
Mm-hmm.
USA Patriot Act is an acronym. I think they spent more time coming up with the acronym than actually reading the damn bill.
Yeah.
Which, okay, we're going to strengthen and protect America by laying the groundwork for a quasi-fascist state. Good job. Well, it's quasi-totalitarian state. Authoritarian. Whatever. And we could talk about the USA Patriot Act as a podcast episode in and of itself.
Yeah.
But there it is. We've already got there.
That's a topic for a different podcast.
Yep.
For a different episode.
The second was, invading Afghanistan. This happened remarkably fast.
I feel like it was less than a month.
It was. We sent special forces teams in to train up the Northern Alliance and provide them assistance through airstrikes on October 3rd.
Yeah.
And it took, I think, a week for the Taliban to be, quote-unquote, destroyed. Mm-hmm. From a military standpoint, that is what we call a touchdown.
Barring all other references to footballs.
Well, the Afghans have had a few thousand years to practice hippity-hoppity, get off my property. It just takes them a while. The Afghan war slogs on for 20 fucking years. The longest war in American history. And now here we are, pulling out. And there's something to be said for, it's long enough, let's get the hell out. But,
well, you can't fuck something for 20 years and then decide to pull out and think that, everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, no, it doesn't work that way.
No. By the end, it's desert dry.
So, I think we're going to take a break real quick.
So that brings us kind of up to date.
We are more or less up to date.
The next thing brings us into the next section.
Yeah, when we come back, I'm going to talk about some of my personal experiences in Afghanistan. Not all of them, but some of them. Things that I think are relevant.
Right, that's right. So actually, the history lesson up to this point brings us up to date for the third part when we start talking about what happened recently and how that's going to go.
Well, we're going to talk a little about what's happening recently, and then my idea is how to prevent this from happening in the future, where I'm going to get a lot of hate mail.
I'm sure you probably will. Well, look, if you get enough hate mail, then you know for a fact how many people actually listen to this podcast.
That's true. We are always curious about that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let me wake up the phone here. All right. So we'll see you soon.
Yep. According to the Department of Veterans Affairs, 20 veterans and current service members commit suicide each day. That is 1.5 times higher than the national average. To go to war and survive, only to end it all back home, is a terrible waste. If you are a veteran who is having a mental health emergency, or know someone who is, please call the Veterans Crisis Line at 1-800-273-8255. Again, 1-800-273-8255. Seeking help isn't a weakness. Leaving a suffering comrade is. And we're back. So, to kind of underpin, we just talked about history. I want to explain why this is so personal to me. I mentioned in the intro that I fought in Afghanistan from 2008 to 2009, or through 2008 and 2009. So let's start right there. I enlisted out of high school. I turned 18. I signed a piece of paper saying, "All right, you're gonna go into the Rangers." Cool. I spent 10 months in the delayed entry program. I ship out in August of 2006. I go through basic training, which for my MOS, which is 11 Bravo Infantry, it's not really basic in an AIT. It's one station unit training, or at least it was back in 2006, where you do your basic and AIT as just one thing, because combat arms is complicated. By the way, if anyone says, infantry are dumb bullet catchers, they have no idea what the infantry actually does. The idea is not to catch bullets, it's to make the other guy catch yours.
Mm-hmm.
So I go through basic training. I go through airborne school. Airborne school is a blast. If you ever get a chance to jump out of a moving aircraft, take it. I can't stress that enough.
I want to.
It is one of the most just humbling experiences you'll ever have.
I can afford to now. We should see about skydiving.
I mean, we could, but tandem seems kind of gay.
I didn't say that it would be tandem, but...
No, you have to do tandem jumps before you can go solo.
Well, yeah, but the tandem, I would imagine, in that regard, is with one of the guys that's supposed to show you how to
it still seems kind of gay.
Oh, well, I'll be Big Spoon.
That's not how that works.
I know.
All right. So I go through airborne. I go to RIP, Ranger Indoctrination Program. I do not make it through RIP. I was not strong enough to join the Rangers. I'm not strong enough today. I take no shame in this. At least I had the balls to try. And saying I wasn't strong enough to make it into RIP is like saying I wasn't smart enough to make it into Mensa. I'm still all right. So I ended up going to Fort Hood. I'm put at needs of the Army. They need infantry. I enter Fort Hood. I'm thinking, all right, this is going to be mechanized infantry. I've never set foot in a Bradley. I don't want to be in a Bradley. Everyone shoots at the armored vehicle. To my delight and later chagrin, I end up in a light unit. Light infantry, by the way, is you have no vehicles. Everything is beans, bullets, and Band-Aids. If you move, it's on foot. So
you are boots on the ground.
Exactly.
The very definition of it.
The light infantry is the last 100 yards of American foreign policy.
Right behind the League of Women Voters.
I got to Fort Hood in, I want to say, March of 2007. I spend a little over a year, about a year and 3 months. We're all training up. We think we're going to Iraq. We get our orders early 2008. We're going to Afghanistan. All right, cool. Thinking Afghanistan, better than Iraq at the time.
Yeah.
Mostly because everyone was focused on Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the news was talking about 24/7.
Yeah, I mean, one of the recent things that I was listening to, in preparation for this particular episode, was the idea that Afghanistan was sort of like the good fight, and Iraq was the bad fight.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Mm-hmm.
I go on my leave. I come back to base. All right, let's go. I was there to see my youngest goddaughter born, which was cool. And then next day, I'm on a flight back to Fort Hood. No, it was later that night, actually, now that I think about it. So, get ready. We go through our training. All right, we're going to Afghanistan. Take a flight from Fort Hood to Bangor, Maine, to Leipzig, Germany, to Kyrgyzstan, to Kandahar. Kandahar Airfield, CAF, as it was referred to. And one of the more humorous stories, I land in Kandahar July 2nd, 2008. And most of my chain of command isn't there yet, and won't be for a few days. So, a buddy
After the 4th.
So, a buddy of mine and I, we just, we let everyone know, hey, we're going to go explore what's going on around here. All right, take a buddy. We take a buddy. And we're walking around an area in Kandahar Airfield called the Boardwalk, which is where they have like a little restaurant type thing and some coffee shops and just like the little commercial area. And my buddy and I are stopped by, or we see a British captain, and because we're allies, we're enlisted, he's an officer, we salute, and he stops us, and we're thinking, oh shit, what did we fuck up now? He says, Happy Independence Day, Yanks, and gives us each a $20 bill.
U.S.?
U.S.
Right.
Have some coffee, courtesy of the Crown.
Have some coffee.
Excuse me, courtesy of the Queen.
Courtesy of the Queen.
So, that was cool. And that's mostly what that first month is, just kind of building up, all right, getting everyone there, getting everyone acclimated. Big part of, going to a different part of the world is, if you're going to be there for a while, is getting exposed to the foreign bugs and letting your system learn how to deal with them.
Shit, I can even go to L.A. without getting sick at least one of the first
Adaptation
days that I'm
sickness is a son of a bitch, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So when you touch down in at Kandahar, I mean, is the area? I mean, at one point it's still a fairly urban area, right? Even where the airport is.
No, the airport is separated.
Oh, okay. I had that when I took somewhat not well. I had that issue when I touched down in Detroit the one time that I did. I've only been to the airport. I'm thinking I'm going to get to see Detroit. I touched down at the airport and I look out the window. Fucking nothing. It's out in the middle of fucking nowhere.
Yeah, that's kind of how Kandahar Airfield was. There is a place, or was a place in Kandahar Airfield we called Lake Kandahar, which was the sewage treatment pond.
The cesspool?
Yeah, that's why Kandahar Airfield smelled like absolute honest shit. It smelled like shit. Because it was shit permeating the air. You were breathing in shit. In 2014, I believe it was 2014, someone was telling me their LT, lieutenant, took a bet that he could swim across it, and he died.
That happened? That was a thing that happened?
That is allegedly something that happened.
Okay.
I wouldn't put it past a drunk lieutenant.
That's a Darwin Award, in my opinion.
Swimming through the Kandahar cesspool, yeah.
Yeah.
That'll do it. So
swimming through any cesspool.
Yeah, so we trained up, kind of getting the lay of the land. We went to a range, and that used to be allegedly Osama bin Laden's little palace that he had outside Kandahar that we used as a gunnery range. And then, all right, we're going. We're rolling out to the area we're going to take over. So my unit, the 2nd Battalion, 2nd Infantry Regiment, little unit history, we were the oldest unit in the Army. Still are, as far as I'm aware. As far as active, we were in every war the United States ever fought. We were stood up in 18... it was 1814.
Mm.
We are an old unit. The Ramrods is what we were called.
Mm.
Because during the Spanish-American War, we captured some Mexican-American War. We captured some Mexican cannons, and we presented the Ramrod to our commanding general. And they're like, all right, here's the Ramrods. Cool. Ramrods, sir.
That's pretty sweet.
Yep. If I could show everyone the crest.
I knew that you had the moniker, but I don't think you ever told me the actual story behind that.
Yep. That's the story. If I had the actual crest, I'd be able to show you what each one of those little things means. I love the symbolism. Well,
I can't hear the word crest without thinking of X the Eliminator.
I don't even know.
Crest on the Birdman's helmet.
Oh,
Never mind,
okay.
just keep going. Just keep going.
So, in order to get to where we were... Oh, excuse me. The reason that my battalion was in RC South, which is the Southern Regional Command of Afghanistan, or was the Regional Command of Afghanistan in the South. And the rest of my battalion, or excuse me, brigade combat team ended up going to RC East up in the mountains, was in April of 2008, the Taliban launched a prison break in Kandahar and freed some 800 Taliban fighters from there. And the Canadians threatened to pull out of the war effort unless they got more American support. My battalion was that support. We actually fell under Canadian command.
Oh yeah, I do remember you telling me about that. Yeah.
Because of that. Which was totally fine with us.
You like the Canadians, I do remember that.
I liked working with the Canadians.
Mm-hmm.
They were extremely professional. Had a decent sense of humor about themselves, too.
They would have to.
Oh, the memories. I don't think we have time for that one. But so we go out to a little area called Hutal. Hutal. Which is about 40 kilometers west of Kandahar, give or take.
Okay.
I mean, I'm operating off information that's well over a decade old now.
This is a rural area then?
Yeah, it was like think of it like a county center.
So when you're in Afghanistan and we're talking about rural areas, are we still talking about like country or are we talking about desert? Like, do we think of this as desert?
Both.
Okay. Okay.
It is country desert. We get to lay of the land in Hutal, and we do a few things here and there. And the first brush I had with, how the Taliban kind of operated, what they were doing in the area, how they fought, was the story of Superman.
Oh yes, okay. We had this. He told me the story on the break we just took. So you're about to have a pretty fun time.
So, Afghanistan has one highway, or had one highway. We called it Route 1 or Route Texas. That is just a big loop around Afghanistan. We were at one of the southern points of that loop, and there was this little dirt road that headed north from there, a little bit ways west from Hutal. We called it Route Harriet, and it led to this tiny little town. And our mission in the area was human terrain gathering. Who was on our side? Who was on the Taliban side? Who was in the middle? Just trying to figure out, all right, who's on what side right here. That was our mission.
Mm-hmm.
And we're taking this route up. You never drive on the roads in Afghanistan if you're American, or really, if you're smart, as we'll get into that.
Being American doesn't, being anything other than American still doesn't save you from a
IED.
IED, yeah.
We'll get into that.
Mm.
So we're driving on the side of the road, and we see this little white Toyota Corolla pull away. We lose sight of it on the other side of a wadi, which is like a creek bed, seasonal riverbed. That's a good way to think of it. And then it speeds back up north, and then explodes. Well, we better go check that out. So we roll up we still had Humvees at the time. We get up close, we dismount, we spread out. I'm pulling security. which is just watching a sector.
Is there in that situation, is there any worry as you're approaching this car that you just watched explode, that you might explode on the way
Damn
there?
straight.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
That's
because
what...
there's so much nonchalance in the, oh yeah, when we just drove up there to see what was going on. I was like, yeah, but
I mean,
the fucking thing just exploded.
I say we drove up there. It's
Right,
not like
right.
we were pulling up next to it, like waving high at it.
Right,
No.
right.
I mean, we pulled a good 500 meters away, then dismounted. And I was in the weapons squad. At the time, I was an ammunition bearer. And we kind of rotated through who was gunner, assistant gunner, and ammunition bearer. So I didn't have that much ammunition on me at the time. We still had the trucks nearby. I wasn't about to die. I might tell that story. Walk up. All right. The second and third squads are going to move up and kind of investigate the area while we're pulling security. LT's kind of in between. And I see, about a meter away from me, this thing. It's kind of red, kind of black. Looks like a burnt but still raw chicken wing, like someone took a blowtorch to a chicken wing. And oh, that's a collarbone. that's a collarbone.
Flash fried.
That is a flash fried, recently liberated collarbone. And we find, or second squad, I believe it was second squad, finds a torso 300 meters away from the car. If you take a human, think about a human doing a T-pose. If you don't know what a T-pose is these days, get with it, yo. Take off the left arm and draw a line from the armpit to the other side of the other side's rib cage.
Just below the rib cage on the
Just
other
below
side.
the
So you
rib
still
cage
got
on
an
the
arm
other side.
attached.
Still has kind of an arm attached. I mean, it still went through a windshield.
Right.
300 meters away. He flew. He's Superman. That's what we called him. There's a crater underneath the wreck.
As it turns out, his kryptonite is explosions.
Yeah. And it's littered with parts of car, parts of other weapons, parts of other bodies. And that was the first time I ever saw human remains, and it was not my last. It was like, that was when it first kind of started to dawn on me. I was in a war zone in that emotional, visceral sense.
Yeah.
Not just that, okay, yes, I'm in a war zone thought. So, all right, cool. We just, well, what can we do? Well, we call it in and head back to base. We never did end up going to that village, I believe. At least not when I was with them.
Right.
With my platoon. Or my company. We head back to Hatal. All right. We do a few more things, just kind of exploring the area. We visit the mayor's little palace, government building thing. I never talked to the guy. He looked like an asshole.
Do you hear anything good or bad about him?
I mean, he wasn't Taliban, so that's good.
Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, he was putting people up to steal shit that we set up for the Afghans. So that's bad.
Oh, well, yeah, that's bad.
He was corrupt as all hell, but he, to my knowledge, never sold us out. So it was during this first little outing that it really dawned on me, I'm in a war zone. We were waiting for, before we headed back to CAF, which was the plan, we were waiting on our 3rd platoon to come back. Then we'd, come back, get everything ready, and then convoy back to Kandahar. While we're waiting, sun's starting to go down. We're waiting around radio. We're waiting around. My buddy, who was the Fister, the forward observer, always had a radio on him. It was part of his job. He called the artillery and the big guns. And we're talking, and his lie is just like, oh shit, 3rd platoon just got hit. I'm like, fucking what? All right, well, get our shit together. Let's go. So by the time that our chain of command was ready to roll, everyone else was like, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. And we roll up. The sun's already down at this point. I'm in the back passenger seat looking around. I'm high alert, head on swivel. Like
For the people who aren't real familiar with military stuff, let them know how many people are in a platoon, just so they have
a platoon
context.
is about 30 people.
Yeah.
According to the organization chart of a platoon. I mean, you're never going to have that many. You might have more, you might have less. We had less.
Right.
And as we're rolling up, we're seeing gunfire off in the distance. And there's a burning Humvee in front of us. It's a Humvee. We know it's a burning Humvee. Mm-hmm. We herringbone out. We set up sectors of fire. All right, we're going to take care of our own. Everyone else is going to push on, see what the fuck's going on with the British north of us. And we spend the night kind of there. My particular Humvee's fairly far away from what's going on. We crack the doors so we're not roasting in this thing. Because earlier, Reed, the driver, broke the air conditioning in a Humvee.
Damn it,
which
Reed.
In 130-degree heat, it's like, oh, you broke your air conditioning, you're a soldier. In 130-degree heat, that Humvee turns into a fucking oven.
You're still human. Humans have problems with heat that hot. Soldier or not.
I've watched it melt plastic. Humans can't ignite. All right, so we hear, okay, we've had casualties. I don't know. I just hear we've had casualties. Mm-hmm. I get a few winks of sleep in, but I'm so wound up. I was told, okay, you rack out, everyone else up. And we're just rotating through that. Next morning, we drive back to Atoll. We rack out there. And the first gun team leader, he, all right, he says, we've got 4 wounded, and one of my friends was in that vehicle, Winston. I didn't hear his name in the wounded, so I'm like, well, what about Winston? Well, he's gone, man. Like, and that's when it hit me. I'm in a fucking war zone. I just lost a friend.
They're all gone, and he is not among the wounded. That's
now,
good news.
The story of what happened in that Humvee is, I can only describe as either divine intervention, sheer dumb luck, or insane suicidal bravery. Maybe all three. So Winston, you got to think about the inside of a Humvee. They look really wide, but they're kind of cramped. Because you have all this other gear, and you're in your own armor and all your equipment. So, you can kind of get comfortable in them, but they're not that comfortable. Mm-hmm. The back passenger seat sits on top of the gas tank. We call that the death seat. You get hit, you're on that seat, you're toast. Mm-hmm. That's where Winston was sitting. So the ID goes off. The cabin is flooded with burning diesel. Winston takes one breath, he's toast. The driver, his name was DeBolt, and everyone thought he was a shitbag. Because he pissed hot for cocaine just before it's supposed to deploy. It's like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Yeah. So, no one trusted him. No one even kind of really treated him with anything approaching friendship after that.
I'm sensing a butt.
DeBolt gets free. He gets out. He's burned. But there's still 3 people in there that are alive. One he doesn't know is dead. I don't know how a human does this. But he allegedly ripped the passenger rear door off of a combat lock Humvee. These things weigh 300-400 pounds.
The door itself.
The door itself. The combat lock cannot be opened from the outside. That's why it's a combat lock. Mm-hmm. Ripped the fucking door off, went into a burning Humvee, and was throwing people out. By the time the rest of the 3rd Platoon got there, he was going back to try and get Winston. And they were holding him down, and he scraped his hands bloody trying to get to him. Warm to the bone. Hold on a sec. we all looked at DeBolt in a very different light after that. Especially, we didn't treat him well. But he was willing to do that for people who treated him like shit. Because he did something stupid, but still. Mm-hmm. Maybe he was trying to redeem himself, I don't know.
Well, you pit saving those people against doing some coke. I mean, it's not hard to make that decision.
maybe
which one's worth.
Maybe he did a rail before he decided to take that
That's
on.
how he ripped the door.
I don't know.
They made fun of me, but
yeah, that was the command Humvee. So that had the third platoon's lieutenant in there,
mm-hmm.
the leader of the platoon, and Lieutenant Brown. His haircut kind of saved his life. His non-regulation haircut. You know, you're not supposed to have your hair past a certain point. He
mm-hmm.
always had it. You know, real styled up and kind of up there. I mean, he had great hair.
Really put the high and tight.
It was not a high and tight. It was like, I think 1940s kind of.
Oh, okay. Coiffed.
Yeah. Kind of coiffed. I mean, well, when the bomb went off, and the cabin gets flooded with burning diesel, his hair melted and created this protective sheet around his head that kept his skull from burning.
There's an ad for pomade.
So that happened. And I did see him later when we got back, but I'll leave that towards the end of this one. So we get back to Kandahar Airfield, and it's like once we're back in Kandahar, where we're surrounded by other people, that's when we can emotionally process what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
I think I don't think very many people had dry eyes for a little while. Yeah, Winston was a bit of a fuck up at times. I mean, he pissed hot for something, but he was likable.
Right.
He was for the most part a pretty happy guy, and he was one of the best grenadiers I'd ever seen. Put a 40mm grenade in a coffee cup at 400 meters.
That's impressive as hell.
Actual range, that is the maximum range of a 203.
That is very impressive.
That's damned impressive. So, by about this time, my leave's coming up. So I head back to the United States, see my family for 2 weeks, give or take. No, 18 days I got 18 days. I was trying to time it on my birthday so I could actually drink. I was 20 at the time.
Yep.
But that ended up not working out. I mean, I still had a few drinks, but
we'd find a way to get you drunk.
It was illegal as hell.
Not difficult, though.
Although I doubt any policeman would have done anything about it. I come back, and my 21st birthday, you know, most people, their 21st birthday, they go out to a bar, they have some fun. Mine was surviving a rocket attack. The Taliban decided to launch rockets at Kandahar Airfield. These 71mm, just blind firing at the area. But, I mean, they had a kill radius on them, about 50 meters.
Well, most people don't get fireworks on their birthday.
That's a...
There you go. Silver lining.
I don't have words for that, okay? But my platoon got up to some hijinks while I was away. They got fired on by friendly forces. They pulled some security for a Canadian sector, Panjwai. Then I come back and, all right, we're now in Hutal. We're not in Kandahar Airfield anymore. We're in Hutal. Go out there, all right. Hutal was 2 buildings, a wall, a great big gravel pit, some tents, and that's it.
Basically a campsite.
A great big campsite. I mean, we had a Chinook crash land there.
There wasn't even like ruins of anything else. It was just that's all that was there.
I mean, there were the buildings we were in. I mean, had like fucking mortar holes in them and shit.
Right.
So if you count those as ruins, maybe.
So there literally were no buildings other than those two that had been ravaged.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there were some leftover walls and that kind of thing, but that used to be an Afghan National Police post.
Okay.
And then we kicked them out. It's like this. No, we're going to be here.
Oh.
So we start running missions. Sorties is maybe a better way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
Where we'd go out, we'd patrol through an area. All right, we'd get the lay of the land. Just really kind of showing the flag. We're here. Whatever. And
see, I thought sorties were collecting stuff from an area.
no, that's scavenging or foraging.
Mm.
The sortie is any time you kind of leave your secured area to go do something and come back.
Mm.
Sergeant Malashevsky hated this phrase, but we left the wire. Anytime we left the wire.
Head him off at the pass.
Yeah, it's become such a cliche over the past 20 years. Leaving the wire, outside the wire. It's like, okay, you're trying to make us sound like non-vets at this point.
There's a good group of people to envy, to mimic, right?
Tell me about it. And one of the other missions that was assigned to us was personal protection. One of the people who showed up to actually help the Afghan people was someone from UNICEF. She was a nice old lady, fit for her age. We called her the Silver Fox because, well, General Order 1 said we could not engage in any kind of sexual activity while deployed. So you take a bunch of 20-something guys who are rip-roaring full of testosterone and aren't even allowed porn.
That seems like such a bad idea.
So we're looking at her like, you're 70, you're like 60, but I hit it. But her job was to go around into these little towns, and we could put a well here. We could fill. They've got good water resources, and we might want to move this well over here. She was always looking at wells. Mm-hmm. I think that was just the first part of her mission, and she wore body armor, and she had a minder.
A what?
A minder, so like her own personal bodyguard kind of person.
Okay.
She went through our interpreters. Afghans who signed up to help out the American forces or the coalition forces by translating. Interpreter.
In my imagination, because of a recent Facebook post I made, this person you're talking about is just Nana Visitor. Don't ruin it.
I'm not gonna.
Just let that go. Let that happen.
She didn't look like Nana Visitor.
Continue.
That didn't matter though. And she was with 3rd Platoon, going through their little AO, area of operations. Mm-hmm. When some shithead decided that's a woman. She's not walking around with a burqa. She's obviously working with the Americans.
I don't like where this is going.
I'm going to douse her with diesel fuel and catch her on fire. Was his idea of how to handle this. He was immediately detained. They put her out. They called him for medevac. She was burned bad. And her minder, just went stone cold. His name was Don. We had 3rd Platoon had him in cuffs. We were waiting to hand him over to the Afghan National Police, as we were supposed to.
Her minder?
Yeah. No, not her minder. It wasn't her minder. Okay. It was the guy who...
Yeah.
I'm sorry. The guy who threw gas on her and caught her on fire. We had him detained, ready for the Afghan National Police to come by and pick him up.
Right.
And her minder was steaming. No, he wasn't. He was stone cold. Mm-hmm. He was talking to the interpreter. All right. Tell him he's an evil son of a bitch. Tell him he's the devil. Tell him I'm going to kill him. Chap! Drew his 9mm, put one in the back of it, or one in his head. Racked it, dropped the mag, racked it, handed it over, handed himself in. By all counts, cold-blooded murder from the standard of the law. We applauded this son of a bitch.
It doesn't bother me a bit.
The woman ended up dying later, through 3 weeks. I believe it was either 3 weeks or 3 months. And he is still in prison as far as I'm aware.
God, how fast must he have been to have been able to do that?
What do you mean?
And dousing her in diesel and setting her on fire.
Obviously pretty quick.
Yeah. I mean, given the area, given where it was at the time.
Just, I don't know, maybe he had a road flare ready to go. But, yeah, that was some shit that happened. Then, January 2009, well, before I get to that, I did see one thing I will never forget. I'll talk about a few things that I actually liked about Afghanistan. New Year's. New Year's was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen.
Official, like, New Year's, like,
yeah,
December 31st?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
New Year's Eve. Because New Year's Eve is my favorite holiday. One of the reasons being is it is a true international holiday.
Except in China.
No, they still have it. It's just they don't officially celebrate it.
Oh, okay.
And because it's like a true international holiday, like anything that would make light and noise, they had up in the sky making light and noise. I mean, we had 155s firing off flares, planes flying over doing their ECM stuff. It was so cool. Just seeing all this stuff all around the horizon. Everywhere that there was something that could put something bright in the sky and make a big noise, it was there. So New Year's Eve was remarkable. I missed the night sky.
Yeah, I know you've talked about that quite a bit.
The night sky in Afghanistan, you didn't have any light pollution. You could look up and see everything. Like you can't get anywhere in the States that I found.
Mm-hmm.
Remember one time I looked up, I took my night vision monocular, it was a PVS 14, which is obsolete today, but top of the line back then. And I just kind of adjusted the focus, and I was looking at satellites pass over. It wasn't hard finding stars, it was hard finding black spots between them.
Mm-hmm.
Of any significant size.
I've definitely never seen anything like that. I'd like to.
I'm sure there are places you can go in the United States for that, but
I'm thinking Montana.
In Afghanistan.
Or Alaska.
And about on the other side of a town, Masra, which was kind of to the southwest of us, was a big sand dune area. It was just dunes. We hardly ever went through there because MRAPs don't do well through dunes. We found out the hard way. You have to kind of chain them together and turn them into a train. But at night, sometimes you would hear the dunes shift and they'd kind of sing. And and you had the night sky, and it was that serenity. I learned to love the desert itself in Afghanistan. It's calm. There's some menace to it, but
mm-hmm.
And I wanted to go back and see it again, this time with a hand of friendship instead of a rifle, but that's probably not going to happen. Anyway, January rolls around, and I started keeping kind of a journal. My uncle, who was a Vietnam vet, recommended I keep a journal, and I tried a few different times in a few different ways. And I found one of them not so long ago. I'd say about a year and a half. We were going through stuff moving into this house. And I remember reading through it and it was like, yeah, I remember thinking about that, and then it comes to January. And the entire tone changes. It was, all right, this is a soldier who misses home, to this is someone full of rage. It was the last time we got hit, but the worst time we got hit. First platoon was doing a patrol, and they were going through the bazaar outside of Fob Hatal. And it's this incident why Fob Hatal got renamed Cop Wrath. They were going through the bazaar, and someone on a dirt bike had a suicide vest on. He waited till most of the platoon passed, and then he went up. Wrath was killed. Sergeant Wrath was killed outright. I didn't know him that well, but he seemed like a good dude. His heart just kind of was pulverized. He didn't last long after that. Another Essery, on the other hand, lasted a few minutes. He made it back to the fob, and then he was gone. One of my friends, Titus, his arm was mangled. I believe he lost it. And some other stuff happened that I'm not going to go into, but it was not a good day. And there was two moments that I will always remember from that particular day that you'd think I'd be paying attention to other things. I mean, we rolled out immediately and set up security and did everything we did, and then we came back, and I remember the two things I remember. I watched the first platoon sergeant, who was normally a pretty hard as nails dude, break down and give my platoon sergeant a hug. I never thought I'd see that, but I mean, I get it. These were men that he led, and I think at some level he kind of blamed himself that he led them there. And the second was the helicopters came in to take away Wrath and Essery's bodies and take care of the other wounded, get them out of there. And we formed up in a line, and they ran the bodies between us in the bags. I don't remember if I was crying or not. I wish I could tell you. But the thing that pissed me off at the moment was someone had a camcorder following them. Following the body bags. At the time, I was furious at it. It's like, really, you're gonna take this this almost sacred time to make propaganda? What the fuck?
Did you know who this person was?
He was someone in my company. Okay. It's like this. It seemed like such a dumb command thing to do. Mm. So after that, I wasn't the soldier missing home. I was ready to murder my way across that country. Because this was why. Fucking why. And it wasn't just American soldiers who were killed. A lot of Afghan civilians, Afghan kids were killed that day. If you're going to fight us, fucking fight us, but no, you won't. And I know, from their perspective, it's a smarter way to go about it, but anyway. Other things happened. We did a few raids. We cleaned up after the Rangers. I saw my own my platoon leader laughing his ass off as a MRAP rolled over on him. He didn't get like crushed. He was in the MRAP, and the MRAP was rolling, and he was he was on the radio laughing like, "Here it goes." We knew it was going to happen, and we were heading out to pull security after one of those Ranger raids. It's like, Really, of all the times we got to look bad in front of the Rangers? What the fuck?
I'm just imagining one of the Rangers like, do a barrel roll!
Well, he did. RG-33s are not good at barrel rolls, by the way. And we did one air assault. I saw some fire support go down, and then it came time. All right, we're leaving. Towards the end of June.
This is when you're leaving?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is when my whole unit is
June
leaving.
of 2009?
June of 2009.
Okay. So at this point, you've been there for roughly a year and a half?
Almost a year.
Almost a year, okay.
Right. I wasn't National Guard. We only said a year.
Right.
The unit who's going to come in and relieve us, they send their advance element, and we get to they do ride-alongs with us. My platoon was hit. We didn't lose anybody. Because RG, say what you will about the non-suitability of a barrel roll for an MRAP, but they can take a 500-pound bomb like a champ. You know, wheels are going everywhere, but everyone inside is just fine. Mm-hmm. It's like, yeah, we're good. We got the radios back on.
What was it like in there? You ever been to the state fair?
You ever been inside a gong? I wish someone said that. But then it's time for me to go home. And, all right, the Chinook comes in, lands. All right, get on board, get on board. The whole time I'm waiting for the Chinook, I was sleeping with using a rock as a pillow. I was that damn hardened.
Yep, I remember you've mentioned that a few times.
Yeah. I wasn't even putting the knee pad. It was just a rock. It wasn't even a particularly smooth one. I was just like, it'll keep my head off the ground. I'm good.
Mm.
And I remember getting on the Chinook, sitting down with my equipment. All right, I'm heading back to CAF. And the moment that Chinook took off, that song by Sixpence None the Richer, Kiss Me.
Kiss Me, yeah.
Do 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 do.
I almost want to intercut that into the episode.
Yeah, maybe we should.
We
like
could.
in the background.
Yeah, I can easily do that. I'm going to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And now cut it off. But that song popped in my head, and I felt a sense of relief, but it's hard to describe. It's like I'm going home, but I'm not going home. Home slowly died for me. Because, you know, my body might be going home, but the person who's heading back is not the person who came from home.
I was going to say, when you said that, the phrase that went through my head was, not all of me is going home.
That's partly true. There's another part of me that it got worse.
Mm.
Michael described as an edge. And sometimes it was a good thing to have. Other times, struggling with PTSD, that kind of thing. It took a long time to get rid of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so I thought I got rid of it until this past week.
Oh, well, I mean, with something like that,
I learned to manage it.
Right.
So, overall, we had, in my company, 3 KIA. 6 WIA, wounded in action. Out of 100 guys, give or take. This is pretty good, but
comparatively, I would assume when you say that, because that doesn't sound very good to me.
Comparatively to other American wars.
Well, okay.
I mean, we got off fairly light.
6%, given the situation, given the information that.
9.
Well, yeah, it's still too much.
Yeah, I mean, from your perspective, but I mean, we went there knowing that could happen.
Yeah.
But knowing it can happen and then seeing it happen are different things. So, I served another year in the Army after Afghanistan. And then I got out. My contract was up. I decided not to re-up.
Was there any particular reason that you decided not to re-up?
A few. The first sergeant we ended up having, I was not going back into combat under that guy. He was...
Well, they were offering you a promotion at the time, which they, in my experience, is what they tend to do when you say, when you tell them you
they
don't
were
want to do
offering to send me to the promotion board.
Wow.
I'd still have to earn the promotion.
Yeah.
I told him send someone else, someone who will actually be there, because I was getting out. I did not want to serve under that first sergeant. He was relieved of command later on for getting men killed for incompetence.
Is there a way that were you able to list that as a reason, or did you just kind of say not doing it?
I didn't want to serve under that guy. He was incompetent.
But is that
I didn't know that happened later.
Oh.
Getting removed from his position because of incompetence.
Well, I just
that
didn't know
happened.
if you gave that to them as a reason for why you weren't re-upping.
I didn't need to give him a reason. My contract was up.
Right. Well, I mean, I didn't know if you had mentioned that was
when the re-enlistment NCO came to me.
Did you mention to them that was the reason?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
I did not give them any reason.
Right.
They were trying to convince me to re-up.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, I will re-up under the following conditions. 1, I am immediately promoted to Command Sergeant Major.
I remember this list.
2, I only have to show up once every 30 days.
You made them an offer they had to refuse.
What are the chances of me getting that? And I was told a snowball's chance in hell, and those are my chances of re-upping. Re-enlisting. They asked why, and this is I think the answer I was asked why, and the reason I gave was, I think I'm ready to close this chapter of my life. I want to go on to the next one. I believed I was about to go to IUPUI and go for engineering. That's what I originally wanted to do.
You weren't wholly wrong.
That was also, I was expecting to go in 2011. No, excuse me, fall semester 2010.
Fair enough.
That was when I was expecting to go, but paperwork fell.
14?
Yeah, I ended up going to IUPUI 2014.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
By the way, Chancellor's is still open. I think at some point we should go and have a drink. I do think at some point we should go and have a drink.
Fair enough. They still have that mac and cheese.
That I don't know.
We got to find out. Fact-finding mission. Next time on the Arbitrarium.
The Arbitrarium goes on the road.
So, there were other things that happened, some of which I don't want to broadcast.
Right.
But that was Garrett Harriman's experience in Afghanistan in a nutshell. There were other good times, like the corn eating contest and the bug fighting. That was fun.
Oh, yeah. Your camel spiders, yeah?
The camel spider hacky sack.
What was your camel spider's name?
Champ.
Champ, that's right.
Then the fucking when the nasty girls got their whole tent, National Guardsmen, got their tent blown away by a helicopter or a Chinook that was crash landing there. That was pretty fun. They blew a hole in our fob wall. And we're like, hey, could you help us fix this? No, we got to go on patrol. Helicopter blows their shit over. Could you help us with this? No, we got to go on patrol. So, yeah. I think we're ready to move on to the next section.
Okay.
So we're going to take a break.
Yep.
That was entirely too long.
Oh, here's my guess. I haven't seen the clock yet. I'm going to guess that lasted for about 53 minutes. Oh! Within 15 seconds. I was within 15 seconds.
Yeah, this is a long episode. Sorry, everybody.
I want some congratulation on that. I have had something
You
to
get
drink.
nothing!
All right, fair enough.
Mission Roll Call is a nonpartisan movement providing veterans with a powerful, unified voice that is heard by our nation's communities and leaders. Currently, nearly half of all veterans are unaffiliated with the Department of Veterans Affairs or any veteran servicing organization. Mission Roll Call collects the stories of its member veterans, as well as opinions and polling data, and delivers it directly to policymakers, becoming the amplifier for the voices of our nation's veterans. They focus on issues such as suicide prevention, access to health care, securing resources for tribal and rural veterans, and acting as a news service and forum for those interested in veterans affairs. You can get involved and become a member at missionrollcall.org. The voice of the American veteran is a force for change. It's time to stand up and be counted. All right, welcome back. So, what was the point? What was the point of me going through the history of Afghanistan and telling you my experiences in Afghanistan? I wanted to frame and kind of explain what myself and others saw so you get an idea of what this did to us, what it meant to us. Now, call me naive, but I believed in the mission. I really did. To bring a prosperous, peaceful Afghanistan into the world.
Back into the world or just into the world?
Back into the world, really. But even better than it was. I mean, I'm sure other places have this mentality, but in the military, it's you never leave a place worse than where you found it. At least from your own perspective.
Yeah, I mean I've lived by that rule as well.
It's like, if you go into someone's house and you, I don't know, drink a case of beer and smoke 5 packs of cigarettes, you don't leave the butts in their floor.
Right.
You at least put them in the trash can, and if you're feeling particularly generous, take that trash out. They don't want to deal with that shit.
Mm-hmm.
So, we helped make Afghanistan the hellhole it was in the 90s and the 80s through arming the people who would end up taking over the place. And then we go in our actual selves. I mean, we push the Taliban out, and which, okay, net gain for a while.
The whole idea of, Afghanistan being the good fight. And
Right.
that's what it boiled down to, was trying to
Right.
fix some of the bullshit that we caused.
I mean, from my perspective, and it was years, but that hateful specialist Harriman that I read in the journal was, thankfully, I don't think I was that guy long. I mean, maybe a few years, and I didn't want to be that guy anymore. I saw it, so I started working. And working on yourself, that's some hard work. Especially going from someone who will fly off the handle at the drop of a hat to, hey, okay, calm the fuck down, buddy. Let's try to be a bit more circumspect. Put yourself in their shoes. And I think I came a long way, but seeing Afghanistan fall right back to the Taliban after 20 years of bloodshed and all the stuff that I saw over there, and some of those things that I described to you guys, and seeing it was for nothing. The mission was not accomplished. We went over there, a bunch of people died, and now we're leaving, and people are dying again. Except this time they're not even worried about surgical strikes. They're firing into crowds of protesters. Alright. So something I've kind of had to come to grips with was, alright, if we're just going to abandon that mission, then maybe it was never the mission in the first place. Maybe some people higher up did believe in that. And I don't mean the military. I'm talking civilian infrastructure. Politicians. Maybe some of them actually did believe it, but I'm leaning more and more towards not. I mean, we were there through 1, 2, 3, 4 presidencies. 2 Republican, 2 Democrat. The House changed hands how many times?
And it also took an act of terror to get us there to begin with. It wasn't like we screwed up and we need to go back and fix this type of situation.
And one thing that I meant to do before this episode and completely forgot until right now was to look at the profits of Raytheon, Boeing, Lockheed, General Motors. It's like, how much money did they make? I mean, I worked for Raytheon for a little bit, and I saw some of that. I almost want to call it war profiteering. I was like, okay, yeah, it's not packed right. It might get busted on the way. Well, if it gets busted, they'll send it right back and we'll get paid again. It's like, really? That's not good.
I smell Eisenhower.
Yeah. I'm starting to believe more and more that the people who led us into that place looked at a pile of bodies and saw dollar signs. And that's not a good feeling to have. It's not something I wanted to see. I still don't want to see it, but I can't not see it now. And then the way we're pulling out, it was like it's kind of tailor-made to send us right back in.
I would consider the possibility that this boils down a little bit to more along the lines of something like the banality of evil. Now, it's not quite that dire, like World War II level of banality of evil, but the idea that those sorts of companies are in deeper than any individual is. This is not a justification. I'm going to qualify that. But are in deeper than any individual seems to be capable of overcoming. Where the profits are the profits and people are doing their jobs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I were to guess, if I were to venture some sort of balanced, unknowledgeable assessment of that situation, that would be my starting point.
Right. Well, the reason I told the story, or the history of Afghanistan, and very briefly, I mean, again, we're trying to sum up 4,000 years of history, and that's that doesn't have anywhere near enough to do it justice. But this idea that you cannot make Afghanistan a peaceful place is patently false.
Well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't. Certainly, comparatively, it wasn't that long ago that it, for the most part, was.
I mean,
not perfect.
Everywhere has their problems, but it wasn't plagued with suicide bombings and beheadings, which that's not something you ever want to see. So, if the Persians could do it, why couldn't we? We are arguably the most powerful nation to ever exist on this planet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if that's a
the
legitimate,
angle I was going for.
Well, if that's a legitimate question, the first thought that I had was, that's true. But around the time that the Persians did it, who was around to say, "Oh, well, what will they do if once they have that space?" What I mean by that is, yeah, we are theoretically the most, or certainly one of the most powerful countries in the world, and have been for a while now.
To have ever existed.
Well, yeah.
Certainly there.
And so the question is, if America, At what point would it be considered an invasion and a conquering of Afghanistan by the United States of America? And what would they do? What would we do, since we are in the U.S.?
If we'd have made the declared
the idea
RC
of the U.S.
South, East, West, and North, the 51st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th states.
Right. That's the fear I can see from the from other major nations.
Or declared it a U.S. territory.
Yeah.
That's. I mean, anyone who says the United States doesn't have an empire is they're not right. We went into that. That's kind of what the Spanish-American War was all about.
Mm-hmm.
We walked into that war a nation and came out an empire. On that note, though, when was the last time you saw any terrorists in Guam? Or American Samoa?
I know. You say that, and in my head I'm picturing really, really pretentious Parisians because... sorry, go on.
I mean, we went in, we deposed a radical terrorist regime, and I mean, maybe it's because we tried to build a republic for them, and they didn't want it. I don't know.
Well, they seemed to want it.
I mean, the people trying to get out of
even
war
right now.
Yeah,
I'd say even right now they seem
to
feel betrayed.
And I recently read an article. I posted it on the Arbitrarium chat. I don't know if you read it.
The Arbitrarium chat?
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
Okay, it was a article written by a former, I believe, Marine Force Recon guy. He was captain. So, who...
Oh, you sent this in the Arbitrarium? Oh, when you say Arbitrarium chat, you mean our messenger chat? Okay, yes, I did read that.
You did read that?
Yeah.
I disagree with some of what he said, but one thing he pointed out that I had no concept of was, on paper, the Afghan National Army had 365,000 people in it.
I took him at his word because I didn't know.
On paper, but when you actually go into the units that are actually there, only a fraction actually exist. So it's you have a paper army that has no one in it, which is okay. Lots of corruption going on there because those guys are getting paychecks whether they exist or not, and someone's collecting those paychecks.
And that's certainly a problem because the terrorist organization is in the habit of calling those types of bluffs.
Right. Yeah, so it's like, okay, why didn't the Afghan army put up a fight? We spent 2 decades training them. We armed them.
That was one of Biden's points of reason.
Yeah,
we'll say.
I mean, at least the Afghan National Air Force got their shit together and left.
Yeah.
But we tried to give them a republic and they weren't willing to fight for it.
Do you think they got dependent on us?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't want to say probably.
Right.
I mean, maybe they had some normalcy bias going on there.
Well,
where it's, the Americans will go and do it, and then, oh wait, they'll be right back. No, I don't know, but I wanted to see. I still want to see a peaceful, prosperous Afghanistan. I harbor no ill will towards the Afghans. I don't. For the most part, they're just people trying to make it through the world. It's something that anyone can relate to. And if you can't, you're a psychopath. And therefore, I don't think your opinion's valid. But I don't think it's going to happen. Not the way things are going. I think you're going to end up with a Chinese Afghanistan.
Well, I think it's true that the only way that it would happen is that the Afghans themselves are going to have to take some serious... And this isn't to say that they haven't to some degree, but they're going to have to take a level of responsibility that is beyond what they've taken up to this point. I just don't see any other way around it.
I mean, there is no reason for that country to be as screwed up as it is. None. It's got a long, rich history.
Mm.
It's got sometimes disturbing but fascinating culture.
Mm.
They've got natural resources like you wouldn't believe. I mean, we're talking about some of the world's largest copper and lithium deposits.
Mm.
If they'd put down guns and pick up shovels, they'd be rich.
You can break even. K-tools.
You mean E-tools?
E-tools. Sorry, E-tools.
What E stands for?
Right.
Entrenching. K-tool stands for... I don't know. You tell me. You said it. But on the domestic front, we spent 20 years and $1.2 trillion, I believe, for nothing. Well, no, I can't say nothing. Some people got better lives out of it. But at that expense, I mean...
Well, they had relative peace for a while.
Well, some people got out.
Yeah.
Like there
It wasn't for nothing.
There were girls that were able to get an education, get the fuck out of there.
People survived and did better because of what you did.
Yeah, but that probably could have been accomplished with a few mercenary units and 1/100th the cost.
Sure, fine, but that's not how it went down.
I know. For $1.2 trillion, thousands of American lives, tens of thousands of Afghan lives, and 20 years of war, I'd want a bit more for my money.
Fair enough, but because of what you did, at minimum, I can guarantee this, at minimum, one Afghan girl became a scientist.
Yeah. Well, what I helped to do.
Yeah.
But I don't ever want to see this kind of situation happen again.
That's a lot to ask.
Yeah. I mean,
we should never stop asking it, but it is a lot to ask.
That I thought, when I was in, people were kind of comparing Afghanistan to Vietnam. Even then.
Yeah, I remember.
Since Kabul's fallen, I'm really identifying more and more with my Vietnam vet uncle.
I didn't think.
No, Lynn.
Oh, okay. I didn't think Jeff was in Vietnam.
No, Jeff was not in Vietnam. Jeff never served. My Uncle Lynn.
Mm.
He gave me a knife that he carried in Vietnam. I carried it with me in Afghanistan.
Mm.
Best MRE opener I ever had. Never had to use it for anything more than opening MREs. Thank God.
Oh. Yeah, if you're in a situation where it comes down to your knife, that's a bad situation.
Yeah, that's a really bad situation, and be prepared for mind rape. I'm starting to kind of identify with that. All right, we just watched Saigon fall. Why were we there?
Hold off on watching Born in the USA.
Yeah, not gonna. Maybe I will. Just not anytime soon.
Yeah, it's a good movie, but wait.
Right. You mean Born on the 4th of July?
Born on the 4th of July. Yes, thank you, sorry. I'm thinking of the sorry, boss. Yeah, I'm thinking of the song. Yes, Born on the 4th of July.
Yeah. So I have some ideas. And these are mostly spawned from, and I'll admit it, rage and
Part
spite,
3.
disappointment, and a feeling of betrayal. Betrayal that, we went over there, we bled ourselves white, we died by the thousands, we shattered our minds and our families, and for nothing. So, that's the feeling where these recommendations are coming from. Take them as you will. First, If you're thinking about enlisting, don't. This is coming from someone who believes that joining the military was the best thing he ever did. Don't. Don't give them any more people to throw into a meat grinder. Doesn't matter how nice their toys are. They can't go into a war without someone to pull the trigger on them.
Would you say it's fair then to sort of frame that as don't join under the current circumstances? Because I would wager that you would say that at points throughout history it would have been good to enlist. Yeah,
certainly. If your nation is being directly threatened, by all means. If you're joining, the more defensive services, and I'll get into that later, like the Navy or the Air Force, okay. Your ground combat forces, don't enlist. Don't do it. Second, I think we should cut down the ground forces, those being the Marines and the Army, and personally I think the Army and Marines should just kind of be rolled into one thing. They have overlapping missions.
Yeah, but the Marmy, there's something that doesn't quite ring so well about that.
What about the Armenes?
It's dangerously close to Armenians.
The Armene Corps.
Some kind of fish man.
And the two big reasons why I think we should cut down on the ground forces. Why do we have a ground force? Are we afraid of being invaded by Mexico?
Oh, you've always said that there always need to be boots on the ground.
Yeah, to win a war. But we can get boots. I'm not saying, completely eliminate them. Keep some special forces around. Some of your special operations groups. Things that are very hard to train. Maintenance units, training battalions. Yeah, keep that stuff up and running. But as far as the, fully staffed brigade combat teams, there's only one reason we'd have those. Offensive operations. Right? That's it. Because we're not defending against an invasion from Mexico. Or Canada.
Well, how much of a threat do you think it is that we might be sometime relatively soon defending ourselves against China, for example?
Defensive services. You've got the Navy, you've got the Air Force. In order for the Chinese to come here,
they have to go by land or sea or air.
Right.
True.
Which buys you plenty of time to, and this is the second reason.
Train some ground folks.
Bring back the draft. We have the legal framework for it.
Yeah.
And if you want a war to last as short as possible,
get a whole bunch of people that don't want to be there.
Exactly. I mean, a volunteer soldier will typically fight better. No doubt about it. A conscript who doesn't want to be there in the first place will fight harder.
Harder, yeah. I was going to say.
And he'll learn to fight better.
So that he can fight harder more effectively.
Exactly. Or he'll die.
Well, yeah.
Which, I don't want to see that, but if it's a short, brutal fucking war versus a long, drawn-out, why are we even here? I'll take the short one. 3. Require a declaration of war for any forces to be declared or to be deployed longer than 7 days.
That's an interesting one.
Navy and Air Force, a little bit of leeway, but maybe give them a month. I think they're already at a month, but cut it down to 7 days.
Now maybe I'm misunderstanding something here, but in a situation like that, wouldn't that mean we would have to withdraw a lot of people from a lot of different places?
On a military base is a bit different. Like Germany, that's a military base. That is a posting.
Okay.
It's not really a deployment.
Okay.
I'm talking about combat deployments.
Oh, okay. That's reasonable.
Where, you're going into an area that is considered hostile. They don't want you in the first place, and you're going to be shooting people. 7 days. You get 7 days of playtime. And after that, you better have a declaration of war ready, or no, they're coming home.
Mm-hmm.
And I figured 7 days for any kind of special operations is probably long enough. Now, granted, I'm not a SF guy. I'd want to consult with one of those guys beforehand, but they're typically in, out, get the fuck out.
Fucking Frisco, man.
Frisco? I don't understand.
You said SF. And
Oh, San Francisco. Gotcha. 4. During that time of war, the pay for all elected officials will be that of an E3.
Oh, that'll get them out of there fucking as fast as they possibly can.
Yeah, your wage, that is now that is now that of a private first class.
No pun intended. It tanks.
I figure if you're willing to send these people to die, you're willing to take a pay cut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good luck getting that to go through.
Yeah. Caveat to that one. The stock price on any defense contractor will be fixed for the period of war.
Mm-hmm. I like that idea.
You can still, run your operation, but nope.
Even if you're in it for the profit, you're only going to make so much.
Right. 5. This is my final one. When wars declare, the military runs the war.
Go on.
Okay. For instance, Korea. MacArthur got fired over this. MacArthur said, I want to bomb all the bridges over the Yalu River to stem the tide of Chinese forces moving into Korea. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Makes strategic sense, right?
I think I know this story.
Truman told him, only bomb half the bridges.
Yep, I know this story.
To which MacArthur responded, in all my years of military service, I have yet to see a way to bomb half a bridge. And then bombed them all. War is continuation of politics by other means.
Once again, but slower.
Hmm?
Say that again, but a little bit slower.
Von Clausewitz said, war is continuation of politics by any other means.
There you go.
And I think he is right. But by the time that war were declared, your diplomatic options should have been exhausted. Or you have been outright attacked.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing that the government, the civilian government, should be in charge of on the war front is, okay, have they offered a surrender yet? No? Okay, the military's still in charge of the war.
Are you including the commander-in-chief?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to make sure of that.
Absolutely, while he's getting paid as an E3.
To be fair, the president doesn't get that paid. Well,
$400,000 a year.
Is it that high now?
Yes.
Oh, wow, okay. Never mind. Strike that, reverse it.
You know how much an E3 gets paid? At least when I was in?
About $60,000 a year, wasn't it? Something like that?
No.
It wasn't even that high?
No.
Oh, wow. Shit.
Let's see, I was making about $700 a paycheck every 2 weeks.
Damn. Wow.
Yeah.
That's not much more than I make.
Oh, excuse me. About $900 a week.
Okay, I was going to say, that's only about
E1s make $700.
That's only about $200 more bucks a month than I make as a part-time university lecturer.
Yeah.
And those people complain all the time about how little they make.
E4, I made about $2,000 a month.
It's less than I make.
Yeah. So yeah, their pay is fixed at E3.
Mm.
That's
Incentive to get the fuck out of war as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And if you want to keep your job as an elected official, you better fucking win it. Because you just sent all these guys off. You had to conscript them, remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, that's important because that keeps us from just going over there and bombing a whole bunch of bullshit.
Right. I mean, we'll still do that.
Yeah.
My plan won't stop that, but it's if you're going to send...
It's not necessarily an incentive to go over there and bomb something all to hell.
Right. If you're going to send boots on ground, you better fucking mean it.
And it's going to cost you.
And I was going to add a number 6 a little while ago, but I've decided to rescind that one. Which was, all right, if we go to war, we raise the dragon.
I'm not familiar with that turn of phrase.
You give no quarter and you expect none in return.
Is that basically just take no prisoners?
Exactly what that means.
Okay. It sounded like.
Yeah, giving quarter is,
yeah,
accepting surrenders.
Yeah.
Of armed forces. I decided to rescind that one. Because I don't want to see our servicemen become murderers.
Right. And when you give quarter, you can end up with some pretty significant assets.
Yeah, you can... If the enemy believes that they're actually going to survive if they surrender, then they're much more willing to surrender.
Yeah.
Thus ending the war faster.
Mm-hmm.
There are certain situations in which you cannot take prisoners. It can't be done.
Mm-hmm.
The airborne drop into D-Day is a good example of that one. Those guys couldn't take prisoners.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have the logistics to pull it off.
Right.
A lot of them didn't like what they had to do, but it had to be done.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of my 5 points here?
Well, I mean, granted, I know very, very little about military tacticianery.
Well, this isn't tacticianery. This is strategery.
Okay. Well, it seems... Okay, well, you know me. I tend to think in terms of morals and ethics. And so far as in the short time I've heard it and been able to process it, it seems morally upstanding. I can agree with all of it so far, but I haven't had time to really think into all of the little details other than what I've already vocalized. So, I mean, so far I seem to be behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As far as like the National Guard and your state forces,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead. You can do what you need to.
Mm-hmm.
But those guys are mostly part-time. There are some active National Guard people. Our friend Drew is one of them. But you're going to be drawing up all these people, all right, who have day jobs. It's soft conscription that they volunteered for.
That's my brother.
Yeah. So yeah, go ahead and have your National Guard. They're there to guard the nation, after all.
Mm-hmm.
So if Mexico does get a wild hair up his ass and decides to invade, we still have something.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I like my idea.
Which is good because you came up with it.
Yeah, you'd expect someone to come up with it to have a glowing review of their idea.
No. There have been times when I've come up with ideas that at a certain point I was like, no, you know what? I'm a fucking idiot. This is a terrible idea.
Typically when you're drunk.
Well, in certain circumstances, I tend to think clearer when I'm drunk.
Mm-hmm.
It gets rid of a lot of the excess noise.
Yeah. The biggest one on that list is, to me anyway, declaration of war.
Yeah.
The extended police actions. I mean, the last time we had a declaration of war, I believe, was Korea.
Yeah, because we never had an actual... Well, insofar as you can call it a declaration of war, we did have a declaration of war against terror.
Right.
The idea of terror.
I would have been fine with that.
Really?
If Congress had passed the declaration of war.
Oh well, I guess that's the thing.
That was not a declaration of war. That was dressing up a executive decision. That's what that was.
Yeah, but that's a guarantee that you're never. You can't. Okay, my initial reaction to something like that is you can't wage a successful war against an idea. Not really.
No, you can't. But I would have still liked to have seen an actual declaration of war.
Fair enough.
If you're gonna declare war, I don't care what. If we declare war on the fucking moon, I want to see.
I need to see the moon war on paper. Okay.
Exactly. With our stated goals, objectives, why we are fighting in the first place. That I think we need that.
I don't think many of us would. This is somewhat off topic, but I've thought about it every time you've mentioned war were declared.
Mm-hmm.
And you know where I'm going with this already, probably. I don't think anybody at this point is ever going to be able to hear that phrase without thinking of Futurama.
No, I wasn't thinking
Oh, really?
Futurama. No, there's a YouTube channel called Sea and Arsenal.
Well, okay, what's their joke? Because I'm thinking it's probably coming from Futurama.
That, they go through the history of, old guns. I'm talking shit that's well over 130 years old at this point.
Yeah.
So you can actually have these things shipped right to your door because they're so old. And they'll go through the initial development and the testing and the trials and how to identify them and all that. And then they'll say, okay, and then war were declared.
Yeah, see.
And they'll cut over to, something from the Great War, and it'll be like an explosion, and then some, why are they just petting a puppy? War were declared.
I would wager pretty much anything I make for the rest of my life that phrase is something that they lifted from Futurama. There's an episode of Futurama where Bender and Fry, they go in to get to sign up, right? Mm-hmm. And they're there basically for financial gain. And they say, what are the odds that we're going to go to war, or that we'll see combat? He's like, well, you're not going to see combat unless war were declared. And then the moment he says that, the alarm goes off. Woo! What was that? War were declared. So then they go off to war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, against those bouncing ball things.
Was that the same episode?
I believe so, because
I think you're right. I think that was the same
episode.
That one
ends with him and his breath smells delightfully of ham, and the whole reason they joined up was to get a discount on gum that tasted like ham.
That's the episode where Bender has the bomb in his ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bender's top 10. So there's other things that go along with how I think we should go about fixing this. Stop being panicky. It's like, all right, yes, the world is a scary fucking place. Trust me, I've seen some of the scariest parts of it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're not going to get anywhere unless you are in imminent, actual danger. Immediate action is not necessarily required.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Don't just feel your way through, especially policy decisions. Like the USA Patriot Act. That was a shit piece of legislation. Everyone knows it.
Everyone knew it then.
But it still went through.
Mm-hmm. When it was up to go through, people were bitching about it. I don't remember anybody around that time. I don't remember a single person that I knew that thought it was a good idea.
Yeah,
people that I didn't know on the news, talking heads. Nobody thought it was a good idea.
Sticking around.
Well, yeah, and every time a new president came up, it's been a situation where they're thinking, okay, well, this one's going to be the one that repeals the Patriot Act because that was horseshit, and nobody's done it.
Yeah.
Everybody thought Trump was going to do it.
He should have.
He should have. He would have been the one president that was like,
Obama.
He's going to say fuck you and do it anyway, and he didn't do it.
When he was running in his second term, should have.
Yep.
Biden should have.
If anybody should have, it was Bush during his second term.
Yeah. But no, that's not how any of this works. When was the last time you saw something repealed?
Yeah. Well, the one thing you haven't talked
There's
about...
nothing so permanent as a temporary government program.
Yep. The one thing you haven't talked about, interestingly enough, given how this third section was supposed to go, is the actual... We haven't even touched really on the topic of leaving Afghanistan.
That's because we still fucking haven't. I mean, most of the armed forces of Kandahar are gone. We didn't tell our allies we were leaving. We gave them, it'll be sometime. We're gone.
Yeah, okay, so now maybe what we need to do right now then, since this is where we're at, you end all your all of your things of how we should go about things, but we didn't actually go through the recent history portion of what the hell just happened between the U.S. and Afghanistan, so do that. That would be important.
Okay, so Trump had a plan to get out of Afghanistan. That was by the end of May of this year.
That's what I had heard, yeah.
Was a full withdrawal of U.S. forces where we handed things over gradually
to the Afghans,
to the Afghans.
Yeah.
And we would provide them support and logistics as they needed it. And, slowly build it up to where they don't even need that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that didn't happen, obviously. Biden won the presidency. And he threw Trump's plan out the window. Which, if he'd have kept to Trump's plan and this shit happened anyway, it's like, at least he'd be able to blame Trump. He can't even do that now.
No.
He tries. Well, excuse me. His handlers try.
De-Trumpistration.
Right. But you can't do that. You change the plan.
So far as I can tell, he basically just said, all at once or nothing at all.
Yeah, and all at once means not even telling the Afghans we're leaving.
Yeah, see, that's a big fucking problem.
That's a huge fucking problem.
And everyone, so far as I can tell, is bitching about it.
Yeah.
Everyone.
We didn't even tell the members of ISAF we were doing it. ISAF being the International Security Assistance Forces. I don't know if they are still a thing, but I know we had other allies who were there.
So then what actually happened?
So we just, like Kandahar airfield, we just pulled everyone out one night.
Do we know how the orders went on that?
I don't know the orders.
Okay.
As we pull out, like Kandahar airfield, we pulled everyone out. We left a lot of equipment. We didn't even post guards at the jail that had Taliban fighters we'd captured. They woke up one morning and we're not under guard. And they left a bunch of guns.
The Americans are gone.
Yeah.
They left in the night like a good lover.
And the Afghan National Army's like, fucking what? Oh, they're armed. With American weapons. Great. Cool. Oh, they've got armored trucks. Awesome. Yeah, we're going to fall back. And then they kept falling back. And they basically collapsed in 11 days. Taliban has American equipment. Now, we've promised that we're going to go target and blow that stuff up again. Well, blow it up in the first place. But
A promise we would not have had to have made.
Right. It's just been a real shit show. And if you're listening to this in the future, well, more is going to come out. I mean, you're going to have to listen to it in the future. I know you're not listening to it in the present. Shit.
This isn't live.
I know that now.
Maybe we should do a live show at some point.
I'd love to do a live show at some point. Reading copy. This guy's going to be fun. And now, the only people who are still left are, as far as military personnel, are around Kabul airport, where we've dicked the dog real hard by incorporating the Taliban into the plan to guard the airport.
Yeah, expound upon that.
So, we incorporated the Taliban to help us guard the airport while we were conducting evacuations. And the Taliban said, yeah, we'll let you evacuate. You know, all that. It's not a big deal, and you're trusting them. It's like, and we hand them a list. This is a list of people we'll let through, or that we would like you to let through, so we can take them out of the country. Which, the Taliban, like, oh, cool. Well, you mind if we share this with our friend? What friend? He's totally legit. Don't worry about it. I trust you, Taliban. You'll do right by us. We have an agreement, right? Totes.
Never had any trouble in the past.
Right. None. None whatsoever. Like that British governor found out. Coming back to that. Trusting someone you've been fighting a brutal war against for years.
Boy, was his face red.
Yeah. So as it was 2 days ago that a suicide bomber made it through the outer cordon manned by the Taliban. How did that happen? Goes in, blows himself up, kills 13 American service people. I guess I'm contractually obligated to use that term now. And a lot of civilians. God, a lot of civilians.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know how many civilians. So, we had 18 months of no U.S. casualties in Afghanistan. Until we pull out. And now there's 13 dead in one day. Say it with me. Absolute shit show.
It seems to be an absolute shit show.
Yeah. And
I can't for the life of me figure out. Joe Nobody. I don't know anything about the details of the situation, the nuance. And you know how important nuance is to me.
It's somewhat important. Got any ice?
Any ice?
Yeah.
This is your house.
Oh, I thought you might have had some in that glass.
No.
Okay.
Whiskey? Yeah, get some ice and
Well,
I'll get you some ice. Yeah, I just can't figure out that.
Yeah.
So you want a cube?
Yes, I want.
He basically gave me a shot glass and asked me to get him some ice.
Yep.
I can't, for the life of me, figure out why it happened as quickly as it did. I can't figure out what the logic behind that was.
Well, all that and more when we return.
I can hear you.
Yeah, but can they hear you?
Maybe?
Yep, TV?
You don't have ice.
Oh.
So, just have some whiskey.
I guess I'm just having some whiskey.
They probably heard me off in the distance. And if you're just going to have a shot of whiskey, then fuck it, I'm going to have a shot of whiskey with you.
Well, I was going to sip it. You know how I do.
True. Ooh.
This is that good rye.
I haven't had the good rye yet. I need, water. Hang on, 1 second. I need to cleanse my palate.
Put a little bit of water in there. That'll do the same thing.
I need to cleanse my palate.
Just a little bit of water.
Oh, but the door's closed. Oh, fuck it. I'll just drink it.
We can't get anything right with this.
No, we can't. All right. Pour a little bit of whiskey in there.
Good whiskey forces the sinuses open.
All right. For those of you following along at home, there is a local distillery called Hotel Tango here in Indiana. And we are drinking the ready-to-drink rye whiskey. I haven't had the rye yet. The bourbon I didn't like as much, but the gin was very good.
And this is a disabled veteran-owned distillery.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And because I'm a veteran, I also get 15% off all purchases.
Wow, just nicely themed drinking time here.
Exactly. I saw it and I couldn't resist. To the fallen.
To the fallen. Ooh, yeah. That's much better than...
That's a good rye.
That is a good... Holy shit, that's a good rye. Yes. So now...
How did it happen so fast? A combination of American fuck-ups on policy and tactics and strategy. A corrupt Afghan National Army.
Oh. We didn't talk much about that.
Oh, we mentioned some of it. The 365,000 Afghan soldiers.
Well, yeah, that's true.
only a fraction of them actually exist. So, how many of them are actually equipped the way they are supposed to be?
No, so
How many of them are actually trained the way they're supposed to be? How many of them actually led?
Right now, what would be the reasoning behind inflating those numbers?
Oh, this is an old school like quartermaster's trick. If you wanted to make money on the side, you'd have ghost soldiers. You'd write their name in the paybook. Yeah,
we're paying these people, so we need
John
this much
B.
money.
Good is, we're paying this many people, so we need this much money. And
Damn it, Chuck Berry.
Right. Well, John B. Good is in the unit. So, well, here's his paycheck. Well, it's got to go somewhere. How about in my pocket?
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, it's bad, the Afghan National Army. I thought we got rid of a lot of that shit. I knew the ANP, the Afghan National Police, was well known for it.
Mm-hmm.
But they've always been corrupt sons of bitches.
Now, how religious are these Afghan national?
I don't know, and I don't want to comment on it.
Well, the reason I ask that, I have a reason for asking it. The reason I ask that is that if these are particularly religious people, you would expect that, and regardless of whether it's Islam or Christianity or Judaism, just as the Judeo-Christian,
right?
Yeah. Regardless of that, you would think that they would be, if they were devout, they would be less likely to engage in corruption out of fear.
You'd think.
You would think that.
You'd think that, but I can't speak to that. I've not read the Quran.
Right.
Well, I've not read it in a long time.
I've not read it, but
it was something that I did do some reading of when I was in Afghanistan, just to have a better idea of what I was going up against. And there's some stuff in there that's okay. It's not a totally... It's not a book dedicated to a death cult, as some people would have you believe.
Right.
It's biased as hell, but it's part religious text, part government treaties.
Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Yeah,
the marriage of religion and politics is pretty clear in that particular book.
Yes.
Yeah. It's theocratic.
Yeah, it lends itself to theocracy. But yeah, the Afghan National Army was not up to task of keeping away 70,000 armed Taliban fighters that were given American equipment.
Now, what made them so... I'm not going to say incompetent, because that's not the right word. Ill-equipped over the years and years and years we spent trying to train these people. Because that's one of the arguments.
I don't know.
That's one of the arguments that Biden made, and that's one of the ones that he's made that I thought, okay, maybe there's a thing here.
See, the Afghan National Army that I work with, occasionally, not often, but occasionally, they had some issues that fledgling militaries have. There's, for instance, there's something called a death blossom.
Sounds fun.
Which is not something you ever want to do, except in very, 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 very dire circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And by those circumstances, I mean like completely surrounded by 100,000 velociraptors. And they're
I've had that dream. Raptor Beach.
So you have your little patrol base, which is where you and 29 of your best friends or so all make this little circle, and all their guns are pointing outward, right?
Yeah.
Because they're trying to keep the area secure. What a professional, well-trained, and disciplined military does is, as someone enters a sector, one person engages them. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, so Phil's shooting. No one's in my sector. I'm not shooting yet. Until they get into my sector, then I'm going to engage.
Right.
So it's selective engagement. The reason being, you don't want to give away where you are and how many dudes you have.
Right.
Death blossoming is very common among fledgling militaries, especially ones that have like a macho streak to them.
Just
South
with
America's
context
terrible.
clues, I'm imagining that's throwing out the whole sector thing, and everybody just kind of goes, poof.
Yes.
You're right.
You see one person starts shooting, and no one wants to be seen as a coward, so they all start shooting.
Yeah.
And from the sky, if you got tracers, it looks like a blossom.
So you know exactly where to hit.
You know exactly where they are. You know exactly how many people they have now.
Mm-hmm.
And you know the positions of each individual. So it's not a good idea, but they did that kind of shit. That can be trained out. That can be disciplined out.
Within a day, theoretically.
Longer than you might expect. Especially when there's cultural biases.
Well, okay, fair enough. To me, that seems like one of those pass down the order kind of issues.
One of the guys who I served with, who served in Iraq, was there. He in the capacity of kind of training the Iraqi army, and you know he had an interpreter. He was telling them the basics of rifle marksmanship.
Mm-hmm.
You know, flip it to semi-automatic, where you're firing one trigger per squeeze, or one bullet per squeeze of the trigger.
Yeah.
And all right, you take aimed shots with your AK. That's what you're supposed to do. And they got them so that, all right, yeah, they're actually hitting what they're aiming at. You know, they've got good fire control. And then their own officer stepped up and just...
Full auto.
And fire. And they all switched to full auto and just... the first round may have hit. The rest of it was anti-aircraft fire. So it's not just training the men, but it's also training the officers to not do stupid shit. The story of Afghan commandos kind of doing the same thing. And they're supposed to be the Afghan special forces. We need to charge directly up the hill into machine gun fire. How about we don't? How about we drop mortars on them and flank?
Yeah, I don't think fixed bayonets is really the only option here.
Sometimes it's the best option.
This doesn't seem like one of those times, though.
No, if there is a time to fix bayonets and charge. If you are completely out of ammunition as a unit.
Yeah.
Good time to fix bayonets. Probably take them by surprise. It's what happened with some Al-Qaeda fighters in Iraq when they went up against the British Royal Marines in a 3-hour firefight where the British Royal Marines ran out of ammunition, then fixed bayonets and charged. It didn't end well for Al-Qaeda. Most modern infantry cannot stand up to the shock of melee combat unless they initiate it.
Just one of those things. I appreciate the Brits a little bit more.
If you were caught in a close ambush, that is an ambush within grenade range.
Right, okay.
If you're caught in a close ambush,
you could get there.
The way you handle that is you turn and burn. You turn into the ambush and you start firing and charge. If you get the chance to put the fucking bayonet on. You might actually use it.
Do guys get excited when they fix bayonet, when they put their bayonet on? And
I was never given the order.
Use it?
I was never given the order.
Okay.
The only time I was ever ordered to fix bayonets was in basic training.
So is that a shit your pants moment?
I was in basic training, so I got excited.
Oh well, yeah.
But I can.
If you're in the middle of a combat zone and somebody said fix bayonets and it was you that had to fix bayonets,
I don't know how I'd feel about that. I really have no concept. On one hand, it's like this might be like, whoa. We are done fucking around. Let's get it done. The other's like, what?
Excuse me?
I don't know how I would respond to that. METTC. It's never the wrong answer. For those of you who don't know, METTC is a military acronym. It is never the wrong answer to anything. You can say it to your boss. Start saying it to your boss and ask him to, what did you just say to me? You cheer for the Mets? No. No one does.
There are better New York teams.
METTC stands for Mission, Enemy, Time, Terrain, Civilians on the Battlefield. You take all those things into consideration, and then you give your answer. So when asked a question that you don't know the answer to, it is METTC.
That's literally just like, listen, I took everything into account, and this was the only option.
Right. I mean, it's basically saying, I'm going to need to know more before I can give you an answer.
Right.
So it's never the wrong answer. And then they're forced to give you all these variables. And then hopefully you actually have a fucking answer. But that's METTC. There was something in the bottom of that glass that was not good.
Yeah, somebody had drank something else out of it, and whatever it was purple.
Well, it's bad.
I'm guessing it had some Chambord in it.
That doesn't smell like Chambord. That smells like...
Well, to be fair, what we just poured into it has a much stronger smell than Chambord.
No, you can smell it.
Oh.
That smells like mildew. I think I just drank mildew.
All right, well.
Well, that's all I've really got. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on, but I think I hit the main points. Tell us what you guys think. You know, get on the website.
We do have a forum.
Mm-hmm.
We have all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I mean, how would you like to close this out? How would you like to play us out? Oh, Canada!
I would like to play us out by recommending everyone read a book and watch a video. The video, we'll start with that, is Eisenhower's farewell speech.
Mm.
Everyone should watch that. I don't care what side of the political spectrum you're on.
We can actually link to that on YouTube.
Yeah, then we should link to that.
Yeah.
It'll be in the description.
Yeah, write a note to make sure that we don't forget that.
Yeah. Link to the Ike.
There you go.
And the book I'd recommend everyone read is written by someone who I plan to do a biography episode on, Smedley Butler.
Mm.
The book is called War is a Racket. It's a very quick read. It's 99 cents on Amazon. It's like 70 pages, if that. If you don't have 99 cents or $1.06 with tax, I'm sure your local library can get you a copy somehow.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very enlightening book, and it'll tell you that this kind of using the American military for shit other than what it was originally intended for has been going on for at least 130 years. Half of our nation's existence, this shit's been going on. And it hurts everybody. Even the people who think they're profiting from it. They keep this shit going long enough, they're going to be on the receiving end of bullets.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd rather not see that.
Yeah.
So, that's all I've got.
All right.
Dave?
I don't have anything extra. I think that'll probably just about do it.
All right.
I think this has been one of the best episodes we've done of the Arbitrarium. Certainly one of the most enlightening.
Certainly one of the most emotionally complicated for me.
Mm-hmm.
And we're at like 2.5 hours, so...
Yeah, this was... I mean, we knew it was going to run long.
Yeah, this is a very special episode of the Arbitrarium.
All right. Well, you're the host, so...
And by all means, please do visit the people we mentioned in the breaks. They'll greatly appreciate the help, and I think they're worthy causes. Have a good night.